and welcome to Murphy's Garden, and you join me today on the hornbeam walk. Just to give you a little bit of background on this area if you haven't seen the other videos, this part of the garden we put in one row of hornbeam. We have done numerous videos on how to plant hornbeam and how to get the look. We put in this row which were already pre-pleached, which we bought from the nursery. We loved it so much, we loved the look that it gave, that we then bought some more hornbeam trees, stripped them out and pleached them ourselves. So we have done videos on that if you're interested in getting this look. So we done that several years ago. Initially, when we put in the patio and put in this bed was in full sun, and because of that, the planting on this side was planted accordingly with things like roses, clematis, things like that growing up the fence, which we had when the garden was quite new. But as time's gone on and things have evolved, and the hornbeam is obviously getting bigger, this area is cast into shade, particularly this side, and this side is getting more shady as the hornbeam on this side gets bigger and bigger. So we needed to review what plants we had in here to make it look at its best. And it's important, isn't it, with gardening, to just constantly review what you're doing, whether or not it's working. And this area really wasn't working. What happened in the springtime, the spring plants would come through. It looked quite nice. It was quite mixed planting, and it was just a continuation really of the other borders, the quadrant garden. It's just similar planting coming across into these beds. But what we want to do is really make this area quite a distinct area in itself, separate to that. And because there's a kind of riot of lots of colours and lots of planting in those beds, it's quite nice to have something different. And we felt that having simplicity would look better and give that more quite contemporary look with the clean lines of the hornbeam. It would just make the planting look better. So we've been debating for quite some time as to what plant would work best under here. So we've got full shade here, semi-shade here. The soil that we have in this garden is very sandy, very free draining. So that was a challenge too. We toyed with the idea of hydrangea, and I've seen lots of pictures like on Instagram and things where hydrangea looks quite nice underneath pleached trees. However, the problem with hydrangea is that they do require quite a bit of moisture. We've got them growing at other parts of the garden. When we have hot summers, they just wilt, they completely flop and wilt and do struggle. And because this area is going to be even more dry because of the moisture being sucked up by the hornbeam, we were a little bit concerned whether or not they would work, and we talked about putting in perhaps irrigation pipe running up here to deal with that and to irrigate them. But felt that really that's not a good solution to that problem. The other thing with hydrangea, they can get quite big, sort of 1.5 meters in height. And what we didn't want it to do was to grow right up to the trunk, which takes away from the lovely clear stems, the look that we've got with the hornbeam. So we felt that perhaps they would get a little bit high. And we were listening to Gardener's Question Time, and a lady had contacted them about her hydrangeas, how they were getting very tall and very leggy, and it was advised that if they're in full shade they will struggle to get to the light and they'll get big and leggy. So we felt that they're going to get much too tall for this area, and the hydrangea that we'd been looking at was the hydrangea arabescens, a strong Annabelle variety, which is a lovely plant. And incidentally, I did buy some little tiny plants just to get me going, and I grew them on. I did put 2 in here last summer just to see how they performed. They were sort of okay. They didn't really do anything much really. Haven't really got much bigger. But the plants I've still got them, and perhaps we can use them elsewhere in the garden because they'll do well somewhere else. But I just don't think they'll do well here. And it is important sometimes to not put in the thing that you want, but rather put in the right thing and really investigate which is the best plant for an area, because you want things to not just survive but to thrive. So it's taken a long time, but we've even looked at the oak leaf hydrangea, which is another lovely plant, but similar problems with that as well. So suddenly we got some inspiration. At this time of year we've got skimmias in the garden, and our skimmias in other parts of the garden have just come out, and they look absolutely beautiful. They're fantastic at this time of year. This is April. and they attract lots of pollinators, lots of bees. They're covered in bees and other insects. So we thought, what about skimmias? We know they do well. We've grown them in the garden. They've thrived really well. So we looked into different varieties and we've come across this one. So this is the plant we've gone for. This is Skimmia ex confusa Kew Green. It's absolutely lovely. It's looking its best at this time of year. It's got these lovely lime green flowers. The other types of Skimmia that we've got in other parts of the garden are Skimmia japonica. Skimmia plants can be dioecious, which means they are separate male or female plants. Our new Kew Green plants are male, but I was unsure how to tell the difference between male and female plants. The ones we have growing in the sunken garden are Skimmia japonica rubella, and these are hermaphrodites, which means that they have both male and female parts on the same flower. This means that they are self-fertile and can produce berries without a partner, but even these produce more berries if male varieties are present. So the introduction of the Kew Green variety will hopefully mean that we will have an abundance of beautiful dark red flower buds in winter that become pretty white scented flowers in early spring. If you are growing female plants, then you will need to grow a male plant somewhere in your garden if you want to enjoy berries in autumn. If you are unsure which you have, then the way to tell is at this time of year when they are in flower. The flowers of male and female plants are different. The male flowers have 5 stamen. The stamen are the pollen producing parts of the plant, which I can quite clearly see on our new Kew Green plants. The female plants, the flowers have 3 carpels, which is the ovule bearing parts. Having decided what to plant, Olivia and Alistair headed over to the nursery and picked up the plants, 34 plants in total. So we placed them into position just to get a feel for what they look like, and I think they've done a cracking job. They look absolutely fantastic and I'm excited to get them planted. So now for the hard work, and let's get planting. So we use an auger and a post hole digger, and that really helped matters, using gravity to get down into the hole and lift the soil out rather than jarring your body with a spade. So that worked well. Alistair had prepared the site by removing all the vegetation, so that was all gone. So that made things a lot easier for us. So we're getting on quite well, and let's speed things up a little bit. And as we do so, we'll talk a little bit more about skimmias. Skimmias prefer neutral to slightly acidic soil types and will grow on any loamy or sandy soil types, but they don't like chalk. It's a myth that they need to be planted in ericaceous or lime-free acidic soil, and we're not adding anything to our soil other than a little bit of bone meal. I think it's looking really, really lovely. And so just all that's left to do is plant the other side. So I do this the following day. Skimmias don't like waterlogged soil, so if you're planting in clay, ensure you've got good drainage. They'll be perfect on our free draining sandy soil, and they're also perfect for growing in containers. So if your soil is unsuitable in that it's chalky or it's waterlogged, then it is still possible to enjoy them in your garden in pots. They prefer a position in shade and can tolerate positions in deep shade, but avoid planting in full sun, as this can cause the leaves to turn yellow. I'm a little bit concerned with the ones on this side, because until the hornbeam get bigger and wider, they may still get a little bit of sun, but in the longer term they should be good. So the skimmias are all planted, and I just love the look that we're getting now in this area. It's very distinctive from the rest of the garden and these beds that lie beyond. In the week that's gone by since planting them, the hornbeam leaves are just starting to open up, and I love it when they come into leaf. It just changes the garden in how it looks and how it feels in this part of the garden. So the skimmias are looking lovely at the moment, and they smell lovely too, and it's a real bonus having something that's in full flower like this at this time of year, because there's not an awful lot around for the insects. So they're covered in insects at the moment, and that's really lovely. But as they go over, skimmias aren't the most kind of wow impactful plant, but they're subtle and they do their thing. So they'll form over time, they'll form these lovely mounds of green foliage, giving a kind of a bit like box balls, but we don't want to plant any more box because we've got enough, and there's lots of problems associated with box. Incidentally, we will be doing a video on preventing box blight and treating box blight, so if you have got it, look out for next week's video. But we don't want to plant more box balls, but these will give that mounded look, and as they get bigger I think it's going to look lovely. So really pleased we've done it, and from a design point of view, I just think it just makes it have much cleaner lines. It looks much nicer, a bit more kind of contemporary looking. And this is a fast line, so in design terms this is called a fast line, where it takes you from one destination to another, whereas in other parts of the garden and in the other area that we're working on up at the top where we've put the trees in, we've got bendy, curvy paths, and that's sort of to give the feeling of intrigue and wonder and stuff. But on a formal design like this it's quite nice to keep everything straight. So we've got the straight lines of the stem, the bark of the hornbeam. We've got the fence in its straight lines, and everything's symmetrical and straight, and we've got other lines converging with this one. So this is a very formal part of the garden, and I think by planting all the same plant all the way up it really just gives that uniformity and that formal look. Speaking of the fence, Sue, one of you commented on one of my videos I did where I was bemoaning the fact that I keep having to paint these fences. They turn green very quickly. So she suggested using a product called Wet and Dry, which is to treat kind of to stop fungal spores growing on surfaces. And I stupidly hadn't thought to paint it on a fence before, but that seems a really good and a good solution to this problem. We have, as you see, already painted the fence. It was incredibly green, so Alistair did it with his sprayer, and he did that really quickly. It would have taken me a whole weekend to paint this, but he's done it quickly. So whether we can put that on after the paint, or possibly it's better to put it on before. We've still got the fence over on the woodland side to do, which is very green. It's even worse than this one. So what we'll do is probably pressure wash that fence and treat it with the substance, and then put the paint on, and it'd be quite nice to compare how the two compare really as we go forward. So thank you very much. Always appreciate all your comments and all the little tips and things that I've learned along the way. So thank you very much, and hope you like this area as much as I do. So keep watching. We've got lots more exciting videos coming up. We've got the box blight video next week. We're working hard on the area up the top, which will keep you updated on what's going up on there with the next video, other videos, not the next video, but up and coming videos. Very excitingly, we've also got a trip to a new show. This is a new show by the RHS. It's called the Urban Show. It's in Manchester. It's an indoor event, and we haven't obviously been to it before. No one has. It's brand new, so I'm not entirely sure what to expect, but I think the focus is going to be quite heavily on houseplants, and particularly a focus for young people who perhaps don't have access to large green spaces outside, don't have gardens, or living in rented accommodation and things like that. So they still want to be able to grow, and they have completely reinvented the whole market of houseplants. Houseplants from people of my generation perhaps have connotations of horrible spider plants or cheese plants that are taking over the whole living room, and I had quite negative connotations of houseplants, but my daughter Olivia, who's in her 20s, has made me view houseplants in a whole new light, and I'm starting to really enjoy growing them again. So keep watching and join us in the next video. Thank you very much. Bye for now.